So y'all want to talk about listings? What do you want to know? Get them. So, what I'm going to start with, so if you talk to 10 different people, 10 different agents, they're going to give you 10 different avenues to get listings, right? So this business, you can listen to different podcasts, different people, it doesn't matter who you listen to, they all have a different way of doing it. And you need to find what you like, what's comfortable for you, and what comes natural to you, and really what you kind of want to do and what are you actually going to do, right? So when I first got into business, I came from a company where I had literally, and y'all, I'm just gonna tell you how old I am. We used to have a thing called the phone book, right? And in the front section was the business section. It had the blue pages. One of the jobs I had, I literally called from A to Z in that blue pages. So like I was ready to like dial, like I didn't care. I just kept dialing. Who do you know is in charge of your computer needs? Like I just kept on dialing over and over again, right? So when I first got into business, I was like, oh, I got this. This is no big deal. I'm gonna smoke it on the for sale by owners and the expireds. They're mine. I'm coming after them. You better watch out. And they said, well, you better watch out. There's these other 3 or 4 agents that are gonna be calling them as well. I did it for about a month. And then I was done. Like I didn't want to do it anymore. I thought I was going to be the cold calling king and it was going to be awesome, and I decided not to do it. So do what you love. There are other people that love it, that want to pick up that phone and want to cold call anybody that's out there. Go for it. Go for it if that's what you love. Find the avenue that's going to work best for you. So I actually came in here and took a picture of this over here. Have you guys seen this? I don't know who put this up here. Which class did this? Do y'all remember? Anybody know? It's a great, anyway, this is your schedule, right? So when you're trying to attract listings, all right, one of the greatest things that you can do is get it in the schedule and do your prospecting, make that hour of power, okay? So over time, you're gonna gather leads, and you're gonna need to remember to follow up with them, right? And so how are you gonna do it? You're gonna do it in that lead follow-up time up here. They've got it from 10:45 to 11:15, and then you also have the role play. So one of the things that I'm doing with my team right now is role playing. So how many of you guys are on the team in here? A lot of you, awesome. So with your team, get with those folks. If you're new to the business, a lot of you, how many of y'all are like 6 months or less, or a year and less in the business, right? Okay, a couple of you, yes. So if y'all are a year less in the business, you kind of, it's hard to go in and say, here's the book of every single objection you're ever going to get, right? You can't go every single one because everything is different, but everybody comes back to like the key, 4 or 5 responses. Oh, I'm not quite ready. Oh, I want to interview some other people. Role play that with your team, okay? Be ready for it. And as soon as you think you're rolling into a meeting and you've got this, you're going to get hit with something that you forgot. You're going to stumble. You need to role play. Role playing is going to be great for you, especially when you're first in the business. Even the experienced folks, I still recommend get with some other experienced folks and do some of that role play. So get that daily schedule. Make sure that you don't follow up. One of the points I think to talk about was how do you follow up with your people, and make sure you have a CRM. Who in here has a CRM? Awesome. If you didn't raise your hand, go get one this afternoon. You need to have everybody organized, right? So there are tons of different CRMs out there. Pick which one. Somebody once said, what's the best CRM? The one you're actually going to use, right? So the one that you're actually going to use and that you like looking at, that excites you to get in and play around with, use it and put them in there. Use your prospecting function in there. Use your past client function. Make sure that you're keeping in touch with people. So I know when it comes to listings, the main thing, what do you guys want to know? Do y'all want to talk more about marketing? Do y'all want to talk more about attraction? What do you guys want to talk about? Anybody? Attraction. Well, I don't need that. I'm going to sit down and let the experts come up here. What do y'all do? Come on. So with listing attraction, the thing about listings is that, you know, is there a magical pill? I personally don't feel like there is. Other people feel like there is, but I don't particularly think there is. Like I talked about earlier, there are different avenues, right? The biggest avenue, the one that I use and the one that I love to do, is working with the people that I know, okay? So been in this business for a while, so you gain a lot of people that you know, so keep in touch with them. So right, so thinking about kind of the Brian Buffini, right? Everybody knows who Brian Buffini is, right? Keep in touch with your past clients, keep in touch with them and talk to them. If you're new to the business, you want to gain, you want to get to that 100 people in your database, right? Is that right? Am I wrong, Mike?
Amen, brother.
Huh?
Amen.
Right? 100 people is kind of the magic. Once you get to 100 people that you run the mayor script on them, who do you know do you know anybody that's in the, that you would refer in the real estate business? Once you run that mayor script on them, if you've got 100 people that you run the mayor script and they say that you are the person, then you've got something, right? They're going to refer you. It might not be that day, but they're going to refer you. You're going to make those transactions over that year. So keep in touch with them. Now, how do you get to that? For me, it's going out, it's networking, and it's being in a BNI or 212. Anybody in a 212 or BNI? All right, go find one if you're not. So that alone, I was listening to a podcast this morning. Somebody did 21 transactions out of their BNI group. So they work, right? I think anybody in here that's in a 212 or a BNI will tell you, you're meeting lots of great people that come through there between the visitors, the people in the group. That's a great way to get it. So I'm telling you all ways to get business in general, because it's not just buyers, it's also listings. You're gonna find listings from those folks. And I know you think I'm crazy when I say this, but open houses. Who in here is doing open houses? All right, I should make everybody stand up. I feel like it's, right? You might want to stand up, no, jump up and down, jump up, okay. All right. All right. Open houses. Tim, agent on my team, he just did an open house this weekend. Picked up a buyer. They have a house to sell, right? A lot of people, when they're walking through the open houses, it's asking those questions, making sure you know, do you currently rent or do you currently own? Oh, you currently own? Great. Do you need to sell that before you buy? Well, yes, I do. Well, perfect. What's Tuesday evening at 5 o'clock look like? Can I stop by and give you a valuation on that house? Sure. There you go. You're in an open house. You just picked up a listing. That's a listing attraction, right? It's asking those questions. Don't be scared to ask the questions of people when you're talking to them. That's one thing I tell my team all the time. So many people are scared to ask the questions. You got to ask them. They've got to know that you care, that you've got to get to the bottom of it to know how are they going to pay for it? Do they have anything to sell, or you're just wasting your time, right? So with listing attraction, we've got the network that you know, we've got getting out there to the networking groups, the BNIs, the 212s, all those. And we're starting to see, you know, some for sale by owners. Has anybody ever called some for sale by owners expired, anything? Yeah, awesome. They're loads of fun, right? So give them a call. If you want to track listings, and you know, if you don't have, if you want to track listings, that's another great way. I know I said earlier that I didn't do it for very long, but it is you can make some money. You can make some money, get your system in there. A lot with them is that you want to make sure that you're following up, right? So if you've got a for sale by owner, and go by there, preview the house. I know some people say, well, you know, you're wasting your time. Well, if you want a listing, you got to get in front of them. The only way you're going to get it is if you get in front of them and they see what you do, you talk to them, have that conversation, build that rapport. I was in a listing appointment this morning, and the lady said, you know, I said, you know, what's going to be the determining factor on who you choose? And they said, well, who do I get along with the best, is what she said. She said, it's a rapport thing for me. I need to know you're going to market it a little bit, but I really need to know what that rapport is. So how can you build that rapport? By getting in front of them. Don't be scared to go over there. If you just want to tell it for sale by owners, you're previewing it, go preview it, just to know what's out there, just to know what the market's doing. Get in front of them and then start drilling them with questions while you're there. So, how we doing on time? We almost out? All right, so that's the attraction. What's next? Any questions that you guys have? Tell me if y'all have heard any crazy ideas out there that you want to know. Do they work? Do they not work? Anything y'all have tried that's worked? Tell me about that. Yes, sir.
I was just gonna say, what is your typical day? I can't read that from here. If you say, okay, today I'm gonna try to find a listing, give us the things that you do in that day to try to find a listing, and maybe what you say.
Yep. Great idea. So, we have several different, I guess, cold lead sources, right? So people that have maybe reached out on Facebook or just like a random, hey, I'm looking at this house online. And so probably one of the places I would go to is look through those and say, hey, I see you haven't been active on the web search for a while. How are things going? Are you ready to go ahead and sell your house? Or you ready to get out and take a look at your house? So I'm looking at my database, really, I guess to clarify that a little bit. I'm looking at my database and people that I've marked along the way, maybe 6 months ago, a year ago. And I'm saying, who do we have good conversations that have fallen off the face of the earth? Who are people that either A, haven't revisited their search, or either haven't reached out to me and I've seen that they're online. So I'm looking at that activity through our website. One of the things I just heard the other day, they took all their leads that are 6 months old. So if you don't have a website that has all that, so take your like open house leads that you've met, anybody that you've met over the last 6 months. So I would say your old open house leads that are like 6 months old. They said they took a 3-day span, and they said they called all of their old leads. They called them, and if they didn't answer, they shot them a text and they emailed them. And then the next day they did the exact same thing. 3 days in a row, call, text, email. It's like a blitz on them. And apparently they had a 70 to 80% response rate. And they ended up, and I don't know exactly how many leads they call, I apologize. I don't know exactly how many they called, but they ended up getting, I think they said 4 listings out of it, and they picked up 2 buyers. So 3 days for a call, text, and email. So if I wanted to come in, I would pick up my old leads and I would start calling. So that's the answer to that question. So what does a typical day look like? You can take a picture of this one, Lee.
Kevin, do you have a way to keep, whether it's 6 months, somebody you talked to a year ago, or somebody that's like fresh and hot to trot, do you have any way of keeping them front and center? Do you do anything in that realm?
Yeah, so in our CRM, we have ways we can say hot, cold, and warm, and so that's how I would just say it's a hot lead that just came in and they need to move. It's a warm lead, and then we have follow-ups that'll just kind of pop up and say, hey, today you need to call X, Y, Z. So yeah, CRM. Yep.
Which do you use?
I use Boomtown. So awesome. What any other ideas or anything that you guys have heard that you want to know more about?
I'd say when you saying folks who don't want to give up their interest rate, that seems to be about nobody wants to list.
Yep.
Because, or at least the excuse they'll give is interest rate. Do you still go after those folks, or?
Depends on the situation. Like I'm the one. I'm always trying to figure out what the need is, right? So if they say, hey, I don't want to give up my interest rate, okay, great. Then you want 10 kids in your 3-bedroom house, then fine. You can go ahead and sit there, but you're not gonna be able to sit there very long. Like one day you're just gonna wake up and say, I'm done. I've got 10 kids, I'm busting at the seams, I need space. So it's finding out what their need is. So if they have a true need, then I don't care about the interest rate, they don't care about the interest rate, we're ready to go. The interest rate, I think, is kind of a fallback excuse. If they either A, truly don't wanna move, maybe it's a contention between we're not really realtors. What are we? We're counselors. We're family counselors, right? Going between the husband and the wife all the time, right? So a lot of times it might be that maybe the husband's telling you that he don't want to move because of the interest rate, but the wife's saying, yeah, I'm not. This house is way too small. We're going somewhere. So it's trying to figure out what that true need is. And I'm a horrible salesperson. So if they say, I don't need to move anywhere, I don't have a reason to move, I'm happy where I am, I don't have an abundance of extra cash, and I'm not leaving my interest rate, fine. I don't have a great response for that unless I know, oh, well, sorry, you got transferred out of town, or you're commuting an hour to drop your kids off at school now. Do you really want to keep doing that? Like, let's look at the numbers in gas and tolls and see, you know, does the interest rate really matter at the end of the day? So, you know, just figuring out what that need is for me, and reiterating that. So, and I guess that is the interest rate thing. So they've got a need, they're talking to you at some point, just reiterate why they talked to you in the first place. So.
Are you trying to uncover that need before you get in front of them?
Depends on the situation. So, if it's what I call a cold lead, like just it wasn't a referral, then yes, I'm trying to uncover that before I go out there. Like, what's going on? Where are you? The who, what, when, where, how, why. So it's just, you know, why are you going? Where are you going? When are you doing it? How are you doing it? And who all is involved. So yes, I'm trying to I don't want to be a drill sergeant, and I don't want to be militant about it, so I scare them so much from wanting to meet with me, but I'm going to try to lightly understand what that need is, like, what, you know, where are you going, why are you even calling me right now? So yeah, very important. But if it's a referral from, you know, a good friend of mine or a past client, then honestly, I may or may not uncover that lead. I might just do the exercise to take care of the person who referred me. So, great question. Great question. So,
Great, yeah.
yes.
Sounds like maybe Boomtown's in a hot, warm, cold. What are you doing if there's somebody who, like, you know they're gonna retire to the beach like a year from now, you're fairly confident they're gonna list with you.
Yep.
What are you doing like now
Yep.
about that person who's like so far out?
So you know they always say buyers are liars, right? Well, sellers are liars as well. So somebody told me a long time ago, I think it might have been you, Mike, or Rodney, I can't remember which one of y'all may have said this, but take their time frame and cut it in half, right? So if they said 12 months, make it 6 months, right? So start following up like it's gonna be 6 months out, okay? So, so what do? I keep them, if they're a year out, I'm making sure that I'm either shooting them a text like a month later, once a month, I'm reaching out saying, hey, I'm here, I'm doing the, you know, dropping the text, dropping the note, the handwritten note in the mail, maybe stopping by if I'm out, you know, once a quarter saying, hey, I'm still here, let us know if you need anything. But take that time frame, divide it in half, and then if they're a year out and you know they're moving to the beach, then it's, hey, I want to come by, let's talk about the projects you're going to be working on over the next year. What do we really need to prioritize? And then follow up with those projects. Hey, did you paint that back deck? Hey, were you able to get that, you know, sunroom stage like we talk about? So it's just following up with that checklist that you also give them over that year. So great question, great question. Because a lot of times that's one thing, you know, and that's the other thing in the podcast this morning they were talking about, was just how many people fall through the pipeline, like fall through the cracks, right? So how many leads have you had over the years? How many people have you met at an open house that maybe they didn't answer your phone the first couple of times, but then all of a sudden 4 months later, 5 months later, they end up buying something, and then they finally return your text 6 months later, oh, I'm sorry, I just closed on the house. Well, what happened, right? We got frustrated. We were worried that they weren't answering, they weren't responding to us, and so we let them drop off the face of the earth. What is the rule of thumb? How many touches does it take before they actually answer you and talk to you? Anybody?
57.
12?
57.
I heard 12. Yeah. Yeah, as many as it takes. Yeah, they say like in the first 3 responses, like in the first 3 touches, only like what 5% actually do something. And then as the more you go, the higher the response. And I think come like 12 touches, I think you end up getting a 70 or 80% response rate to, I think is what it is. They found it by after the 12th response or something. So anyway, look that up. But it takes a lot of touches. So that one phone call that you make after that open house, and you called them and said, hey, you know, it was great meeting you on Sunday, you know, we'd love to catch up. Well, you just called them while they were in the doctor's appointment. They got out of the doctor's appointment. Their son's school called them. They had to go pick them up. They forgot about that because then they had to go to the doctor. So they forgot about your call that day. They really wanted to talk to you, but life got in the way, right? So don't take it personally when they don't call you back. So we all know how life gets in our way. Just keep calling them until, go for the no, right? Go for the no. Keep on asking those hard questions. Ask the hard questions that you don't want the answer to, so that you can know if you can cross them off the list and move forward. That's the best listing technique right there. So anyway, what other? Y'all got some great questions. I really like that. What else we got?
This kind of goes back to what you're talking about. Every time somebody gives me the no and they give me the no, I love my interest rate.
Oh yeah.
I like to take away the dream of what they could get.
Yeah. Yep.
And I like to get them talking about, oh wow, you must love your house then.
Yeah.
And if they say they got a realtor, oh great, everybody should have a great realtor. I'm glad you got an awesome realtor.
Yeah, that's a good point. Yes, talk about buyers are liars or sellers are liars. How many people say, oh, I've already have an agent I'm working with, and then come to find out, oh really? What's their name? Yeah, they're with, yeah, that realty company. I don't have their card, I'm sorry. My wife has their card, or my husband has their card, I don't know. Yeah, I love that response. That's basically that, you know, you gotta keep them talking at that point, so that's a great point.
What are you doing with the folks who, they don't wanna sell until they find the next place, or they wanna identify the purchase first before they list?
So going through and explaining the market, right? So going through and, again, I probably do this all wrong, and y'all probably wanna shoot me for saying this, but sometimes I'll let them lose out. You know, I'll explain to them, I'll do everything I can to say, all right, can you buy that next one? And then it's, all right, if that perfect house comes up, you do understand the timing of this, right? You've got to get your house on the market and sold within 6 hours so that we can make that offer on the next one, and actually be in the running, correct? And explaining what the market's doing, explaining what they're looking for, they're not going to be able to buy as a, you know, y'all understand the lingo, right? So 48 hour, they're not going to be able to buy it as a first strike. They've got to buy it as a non-contingent. So why don't we go ahead and let's get your house. If you really need to get out of here, you really want to get out of here, and you don't want to miss that perfect house, then let's go ahead and get your house on the market. And I'll tell you what, I'll try to get you a rent back. How about that? You know, let's keep a pulse on the market for the next 30 days while we're getting your house ready. Let's see what's out there. If you guys see some houses that you like, then let's go ahead, let's get your house on the market, get it under contract, and then we'll get you a rent back so that we can get you some more time to find that perfect house, close on it, and you won't get beat out by everybody else. Sometimes that does work, sometimes it doesn't. When it doesn't, you just have to let them get beat out and let them have to say, you know, don't say I told you so, because that doesn't always go over well. But say, look, you know, if we don't want to get beat out next time, if we don't want to miss that next house that comes up that you're going to love, then let's go ahead and let's get your house on the market now so that we don't get beat out. So, but that's understanding the how part, right? So do they even need to sell it in order to get to the next house? And if they don't, then great, just find them that next house, get them in it, and then put theirs on the market. But if they have the need to sell that house, then that's how I would go through that conversation. So anybody want to correct that or keep that? Anybody got something better for that than?
Sometimes people are still contingent, but they may need to get a home equity line to make themselves non-contingent. Those are also, find out a way to get people non-contingent.
Yep.
So that frees them up to go do it.
100%. Yep. Yeah. Yep. Awesome. All right. What else? Anything else on the lead attraction? I'm trying to go through my notes real quick to see what else we had on here.
Do you do any direct mail or like circle prospecting?
No.
Mostly database, you would say.
Yeah, I'm cheap. Yeah, I can't afford to do direct mail. Yes, sir.
Kevin, do you do market updates to your clients that are a few months out?
That are a few months out, yes. Yeah, if there's clients that are, you know, I call them an active client, right? If they're a year out, I call them an active client because
Right.
we've got to stay top of mind. We've got to do that 100%. I'm keeping them up to date. I'm saying, hey, here's what's going on in the market. Hey, you know, I'm putting actually a search together for their neighborhood. I'm letting them know what's selling in their neighborhood. Hey, just want you to know this house just went on the market in your neighborhood. You know, this is going to make us look great. Or hey, we need to hurry up and get this one behind us so that we can, you know, move forward. So,
Do you have a particular day of the week that you like to do them, or a particular system in
I
place?
don't have a particular day of the week. Typically Tuesdays, Thursdays are kind of my follow-up days with active clients, and so I would say, yeah, I guess Tuesday, Thursdays are a particular day that I love to do that. And so talking about the market, one of the things is market confidence. So I know that there's a lot of newer agents in here. And you know, the listing I had this morning, This doesn't go actually out on the internet anywhere, does it? Never mind, we're gonna cut that conversation. Pause. So let's rephrase this one. So market competence. So understanding what's going on in the different neighborhoods. Let's face it, we have a lot of information at our fingertips, right? So somebody says, you know, I need to make sure whoever's buying houses, you know, knows my neighborhood, right? Do the research on the neighborhood. Take the time, okay? Take the time to do the research on the neighborhood to know what's going on. Does that neighborhood, you know, let's say they're selling in Brandermill, right? How many pools are in Brandermill? Anybody know? Yep. See, we're
One?
Oh no, there's a ton of pools in Brandermill.
More than
Like
one.
4. Yeah.
Is that all?
1 plus.
Yeah.
But we've been at least 8.
1 plus, right? So, so understand, you know, how many pools are in that neighborhood? You know, what's going on in that neighborhood? I'm not going to say the last 6 months. Everybody's easy, you know. The quick agents, they're going to go in there last 6 months. Here's what's sold, yada yada, right? No, you need to know what's going on in the last 2 years in that neighborhood. Okay. Now we as agents know that 2 years ago has nothing to do with what's going on right now. But to your seller, it could be their neighbor's house just sold 2 years ago, and they're basing all their information off the fact that their neighbor's house just sold, right? So understand don't be scared of it, right? So that's my main thing with market competence is don't be scared if somebody says, hey, what's going on in my neighborhood? We've got all the information at our fingertips. Call the other agents and say, hey, how many offers did you have on that? If it's sold in the last 3 or 4 months, and you've got time and it's a big listing and you really want to get that listing, do the research, do the homework. Call the other agents that have sold in there in the last 3 or 4 months and say, did you guys have multiple offers? How did your house show? Why did it actually go for $50,000 less than it's just sold for? I just had one of the comps, it was listed for $450 and sold at $380. So it's why in the world did that happen? Do I?
Yeah, exactly.
Oh yeah. So it was an estate situation. They had some problems that came up on the inspection, and so they just said make it go away, and so it went away. Yeah. So understand that. Know what your competition is. Know what's going on in there. You don't have to be a 20-year veteran and have sold 1,000 homes to understand that stuff. You can go in. This can be your second week in the business. And if you take an hour to go through and understand what's selling in that neighborhood, make a couple of phone calls, talk to the other agents, you can sound more educated than the person that's been doing it for 20 years, right? So don't be scared. Don't let these sellers intimidate you. Just because it's $1 million listing, don't let it scare you. If you're not on a team, talk to one of the managers. They'll help you. They'd love to help you. They'd love to see your sign out in front of that. So don't let that scare you. And that's, if I have one big piece of advice is don't, ask for help, right? We're all here at Hometown. We're all here helping out. We all want to see each other succeed, okay? So talk to the person in the office next door, talk to your office manager. We're here to make sure that you guys can get these listings and you guys are successful and put money in your pockets. So make sure you ask for that if you have any questions or any doubt or if any of them scare you. So yeah. Any questions on the market, understanding the market or market preparedness? Yeah. Everybody else knows, y'all are kind of paying attention to what's going on, the inventory levels and everything, right? Like, how many homes we have. Anybody know how many homes are on the market right now? Greater Richmond area, all of them? Awesome.
Who would like Kevin Currie to send little tidbits of information to the entire office as he's pulling them, like what's the total amount of listings and those cool things, if he just sent a little information tip, because that sounds really smart to me, Kevin, and I don't have any idea about any of these little tips you got.
Yeah, well, it's like 2,500, and so just so y'all know, so we know in the room, like a year ago, it was like 1,400, 1,500 homes on the entire MLS, all of Richmond and Charlottesville, the entire MLS, homes, townhomes, everything. It was like 1,300, 1,400. Now we're up to like 2,500. So
anybody else want Kevin to send out one tidbit a week?
Yes. Yes.
Oh gosh.
No pressure, Casey.
That's too much like work.
No pressure.
Are those numbers you look at daily?
No, I don't look at them daily. Every couple of weeks I'll glance at them. So it's an
What are you mostly looking at?
I'm just trying to just see what's going on in the market. I look at the absorption rates, so what ended in the last 30 days, and then I look at how many are in the total market. I mean, you can log in and do it in like 30 seconds.
So explain the absorption rate, cause that, some people might not, I might not know that.
Yeah.
It's pendings divided by.
Pendings divided by actives, yeah, and that's a very generic way to do it. And I do the pendings versus the solds, because solds are including 60-day closings, new construction closings, stuff like that that sold, 6 months ago. I just want to know how many went under contract in the last 30 days, so I can get a feel for, are we slowing down, are we speeding up, or where are we? And that number has stayed steady. That number was up to like 1,300, 1,400. Last I checked it a few weeks ago, it was like 1,100 or 1,200. That number was dropping a little bit, not enough to scare us. I mean, we're still at like 2 months of inventory, so yeah. And the numbers were so low. I mean, I don't know if a lot of y'all in the room don't remember when there were 12,000 homes in the Richmond area to choose from. That was fun. And we were still selling 1,100 to 1,200 homes a month. So yeah, remember those good old days, don't you? Oh yeah. So I was just pulling just the entire thing. So you can get granular. Somebody used to do them for us. We used to have them like by area, and that was always fun. But play around with MLS. And so talking about when you're going to these listings, understand the neighborhood and understand what I say absorption rate, right? So absorption rate is how many houses are out there, how many are buying, how many are out there available to buy, and how many are actually selling, right? So figuring out how long it takes to sell off what the inventory is. So you do need to understand that in the area that you're going to.
So that's
now,
kind of a number that you can't just divide it out once and say this is absorption rate. You have to kind of track that over time to see that trend pattern that you're talking about, whether they're getting pulled down quicker than normal, or if it's at a slower absorption than others. So you gotta be on it.
Yep, and and let me say, out of 10 buyers, let me say this right here, out of 10 listing appointments that you go on, you might have 3 people that ask you for some geeky data like that, right? And so don't let it stress you. Don't let that stress you at all. I'm just kind of covering everything, trying to cover as many objections that I've heard over the past that I try to prepare for when I go into these, okay? So please don't let absorption rates scare you when you're going to listing appointment, because there's a 70 to 80% chance the person's not gonna ask for it and you're not gonna need to worry about it. Yes, ma'am.
What do you think is the sweet spot for the timing of a listing appointment? Because I feel like we've all gotten stuck in those appointments with friends and we're all of a sudden there for 2.5 hours, and then we've all experienced like 25 minutes in and out. Like, is there, obviously it depends on the person, but is there a time that you have found like allows you proper time to go through everything, make sure they understand the paperwork? And
for me, it's between an hour to an hour and a half. For me personally, I'm extremely jealous. Blakely told me one time, I think Blakely, his longest appointment took 45 minutes. He's usually in and out in 20 to 30 minutes. Like, he is a machine, but he's pre-qualifying and doing everything up front. He knows what's going on. He's probably already done stuff up front. Yes, sir.
Blakely actually prints off the 1 and 5 minute listing presentation, and he goes question by question and keeps them on track.
Okay.
And then he hands them 10 points he's going to use to sell a house.
Okay.
And asks them if they have any questions.
Oh, that's awesome.
And it's fast. It's fast.
Yeah. Yeah. He's a machine. I need to figure that one out.
Yeah. I'm still talking about coffee and cookies, and he's ready to load the truck.
That's awesome. So for me personally, I don't know, anybody else? I mean, is it kind of, I feel like an hour is what most people end up spending. Is that about anybody else?
Depends if it's a referral or a straight pull person too, so.
Yeah.
Kevin longs about 3 to 4 hours.
Some of them are longer.
Yeah, I would say an hour, and I told my wife, like, who the heck knows, like, don't count on me for anything,
training.
it could be,
I'm
maybe
been
45
Rogers.
or it could be.
I want to be in and out in fucking 30 minutes.
Well, you got to match whoever the seller is. You get people who are talker, you end up talking.
Oh, yeah.
Come off short, and they don't get the lovey feeling from you, and then they're waiting the person that's talking for 3 hours. So,
Oh, yeah.
you gotta match them all up.
Yeah. When you're lining up back-to-back appointments, I learned very early to give yourself plenty of time in case something runs over. Yeah. But yeah, and I wouldn't stress so much about, you know, you're talking about how long does that appointment take? Don't worry about how long that appointment takes. If it takes 3 hours and you got that appointment,
Yeah.
then great, you know? Because like I said, the lady this morning, she just wanted the relationship. That's all that mattered. And so some people can build that relationship and get the seller can get everything they need in 15, 20 minutes. Others, they need the hour to finally break through. And I think it was a good 45 minutes before I could tell that her body language, she finally relaxed and that I'd kind of broken through at about the 45-minute mark for her. So it just takes, yeah.
I would say now I do communicate with the seller, like I send them an email ahead of time and say it should only take us 45 minutes. I try to set the stage for that, but it's not like a hard stop.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. And that's a great point. So because a lot of people do ask, like, how long is it going to take you? What's it going to take? And I tell them about an hour. And if the person is able to take 2 hours and wants to take 2 hours, then they want to take that because they want you to be their agent. It's a good sign if you're still in there. So, but yeah, that comes to, how long have you been in the business?
3 years.
3 years, okay. So that's just, it comes to pre-qualifying, right? So you can pre-qualify a lot of stuff if you want to be out there faster.
Do you use the pre-qualification script?
I don't use a particular script. I kind of just made up my own. My script is who, what, when, where, how, why. So that's the pre-qualification script, and that's what I use. So, yeah. Yeah. Does that, y'all understand what who, what, when, where, how, why is? Everybody? Bueller?
You better run through that again.
So the who, you want to know who's involved, okay? So that's one of the most important things. You don't want to go there, as much as I've been doing this, sometimes I forget to ask the question, but is it just you that's making this decision, or is there somebody else that's going to be there with you? It can be a spouse, it can be a parent, it can be a child, but you want to know who is involved in that decision and make sure that they're there, right? The what, so what are we accomplishing? Is this a buyer presentation? Do you need to sell? Like, what are we doing, right? The why, like, why are you making this move? Where are you going? Are you getting transferred out of town? Do you need a bigger house? Are you downsizing? Are you going to a retirement home? Why are you doing this? Why are we even taking the time to meet? When do you plan on doing this? Is this something that you plan to do a year from now, 2 years from now? Or is this something that you plan to do next month? Like, how soon do I need to be out there? Do I need to drop what I'm doing and be there in 5 minutes because you're transferring next week? Or what do we need to do, right? Who, what, when, where, how, why, when, what am I missing?
Where?
Yeah, where are you going? There you go, thanks. Where are you going? So are we staying here? Are we staying local? Are we going out of town? We going to the beach? We just going across town to the new hip neighborhood, or just across the street because your house is 3 years old and you want a new one? What are we doing? So where are we going? So yeah, so that's it in a nutshell. So I guess if that's a pre-listing script, that's a pre-listing script that I go with. So I make sure I at least have all those answers before I just show up and, I want to sell my house. Great, see you in 5 minutes. What are we doing? I will kind of want a little bit of a direction before we jump in. So great question.
Do you ask what they want to see their house listed at, or do you give them what you think it is?
I hate giving what I think it is. I can't stand that piece of it. So the way I do it is I present them the comparables and let them come up with their own number. And sometimes they come up with it, sometimes they don't. You always want to know what Zillow says, because everybody knows what Zillow says. So if you don't, you're the outsider. So you got to know what their expectation is. And so I'll ask them before we even start going through, and before we start, I'll say, do you have a number in mind? Sometimes they say yes, sometimes they say no. The smart aleck one say, well, that's what I have you for. Yes, you did. I know you know your number.
100%.
I just need to ask it in a different way. Yeah, great question. What else?
You mentioned the podcast a couple of times. What podcasts do you listen to?
So a couple different ones. Buffini and Tom Ferry are the two big ones that I listen to. So I like Tom Ferry to keep me rate and what's going on in the world and what I need to do marketing wise and Buffini to keep me on track to make sure I stay in touch with my peeps. So, yeah. Yes, sir.
When you get into the listing appointment and you've looked over the house and you're talking to them and everything, and there are some things that you notice that need to be fixed, or they're asking you, what do we have to do to sell our house?
Yeah.
I know sometimes that can kind of be a sticky situation. You know, you don't want to go in and say, man, you got to paint this bathroom, and that was his wife's favorite color. You know, then you're done. How do you?
My baby ugly.
How do you approach that?
So great question, and it depends, right? I'm going to try to read the room. I'm going to try to see what their story is. Is this a competitive situation? Is it not? Is it a good friend? I mean, as I was touring the house, did they tell me what they loved about it? And that was one of their favorite things. It's going to be different on every situation. Typically what I want to do is honestly get the listing agreement signed before I give them a checklist to do, typically. But sometimes it's inevitable. I mean, we start talking about it and, hey, I'm sorry, you know, I know you love the purple accent wall in the living room, but it's got to go, right? So, I try to make it dependent on the situation, but typically, I try to do it after, but it really depends on the situation. How much are they just grilling me for it? And if I don't give it to them and leave, do they go to the next agent because I didn't give them a checklist? Then I'll go ahead and give them something. If I feel like I can kind of ignore the question and wait until after they sign the paperwork, then I'll ignore it and wait till they sign the paperwork. So, yeah, does that make sense? Does that answer?
Yes.
So, yeah.
I want to break in. You talked about how that rapport is real important. I remember got feedback on a listing that I lost, and like the agent was pretty good about just saying, like at the end of his listing, this woman, like, do you feel comfortable? Like, am I a good fit for you? And that's who they went with, because they, you know, essentially liked the other person better. Is there anything that you do or any tricks you do to help build that rapport?
There's a book, I don't know if y'all read the book Surrounded by Idiots. Y'all heard about it?
I wrote it.
What?
No, I'm just kidding. Sorry, I'm sitting by Kyle.
So there's all the different personality groups, right? So it's figuring out what personality you're dealing with and trying to mirror that personality is what it comes down to. So if you have a fast talker that's ready to go and then you just want to get their house on the market and they're hurting out, then you need to talk as fast as they are, right? And if you've got somebody that's taking it really slow and they're soft-spoken, then you want to take your time and make sure that you're speaking to them on their level, right? So it's kind of reading the room and understanding what your client needs and making sure you're going to their speed. The worst thing you can do is be the fast talker to the person that really wants to wait and hold tight and slow down. So trying to build that rapport is just, you know, trying to mirror what they're doing. So that book, Surrounded by Idiots, will kind of help if you want to listen to that in your Audible app. Do I get paid for saying that? Yes, sir.
So let's say you have a client, they're coming and they want to list their house at some point, but they're like, hey Kevin, can you come over and look at the house? We want to do some things to upgrade it before listing it. We just want to know what's going to give us the best bang for our buck.
Perfect.
What things typically do you tell them?
Oh yeah, so I'm definitely going to talk to them, and then, you know, they're saying, hey, we're getting ready to list, perfect, I'm looking forward to it. I'm going through my normal listing routine, right? Okay. So it's coming over, giving comps, coming up with a number, establishing the time frame, and then we're going through the house, and then at that point, I will either A, bring the stager in and have her give the tips, or B, I'll give the tips. You know, a lot of times if it's a friend that's saying, hey, you know, I'm thinking about replacing my countertops, do I need to or not? We're going to go and I'm just going to give them the advice. Yes, do it. No, don't do it. Don't spend your money here. Yes, spend your money there. So is that what you're asking?
I guess it's different, kind of different from client to client, house to house, how you'd advise them or what you would advise them to do.
Correct. Yeah,
okay. Every
situation is different because it might be, they might need a full whole house makeover, but they might not have the budget for it nor the time for it. So It's like, all right, I'm sorry. We're just going to have to list it at a different price and let this thing go. Or if they have time and they can do a full kitchen reno on the neighborhood, they can obviously stand it and they can make double their money by doing it, then great, let's take our time, let's do it, and let's go from there. So it's kind of a case by case situation, but
Gotcha.
I mean, we all know kitchens and baths sell, so
Right.
anything that can make it shine and look pretty, the better off. We're all, I don't want to say almost any market. Most markets are all competing with a new construction product or a flipped product somewhere that has been professionally staged, right? So we need to know that going into these houses, hey, your decorations from the 80s don't quite look like everything else, so we need to thin it out a little bit. So, so that's, yeah.
Did you ever ask for pictures of the house prior to going to it?
No. I should.
Yeah. No, it sucks when you get into the house and you have pictures in your head, and then you get there and it's like, this is not what I was expecting. The price is way off.
I've shown up and said, I'm going to tell you what, I did all this work and it's worthless because this is not what I expected. So I apologize. I'm going back to the drawing table. So I just, I admit when I'm wrong all the time. So, it happens. But a lot of times I will say if it's a house that's been lived in for a while, I will go ahead and just ask a couple of quick questions. So if it's an 80s house and they've been there for 30 years and I'm not seeing pictures of the last listing to kind of know where it stands, I'm going to say, hey, if you don't mind me asking, have you done any renovations since you've been there? And then sometimes they'll rattle off, oh yeah, I did a full kitchen reno, painted the cabinets and I put countertops on, right? So depends, I'll ask them what they've done. So if it's a house, but I've never really asked for pictures. That'd be awesome.
Success with it, just kind of talking. I'll have people kind of walk me through your house and what you've done, what's updated, what your bathrooms like, what your kitchen's like, do we have grant, do we not? Try to just kind of pre-qualifying, the seller, just like you do with the buyers, trying to find all the info about it. But I always ask them, hey, if you don't mind, can you snap a few pictures and send them to me? That way I can bring you the most accurate, price information when I come on our appointment.
So you're on the 20-minute listing appointment then. That's awesome. So you got Blakely beat.
Not really, no. So,
that's all.
I'll find a way to extend it.
Nice. That's a great idea. I haven't really thought about that. That's awesome. All right.
You can also find tips on that too. It's kind of like, well, I know when you're talking about paint colors, I know when you're telling them about decluttering your storage unit or whatever, if you want to get kind of a sense of how to keep their house.
Yeah.
Too.
You don't have that shocked look when you walk in, when you open the door and you can't walk through the living room. Yeah.
I just feel I've been in crack houses before, so your house looks great. So
Exactly.
Been in them all.
I love it. Yeah.
Don't have meth in here. This is great.
Yeah. Thanks for putting your meth stuff away before I walked in. Appreciate it.
Tape on the floor.
Oh yeah. What am I missing? What questions am I missing? Am I missing
Let's bring another one on yet.
Yeah.
I don't think we've ever really talked about it in some of the hometown training, but like somebody talks about a vacant house versus staged and bringing furniture in type of staging.
Depends.
I mean, usually, have you ever staged?
Oh yeah. Oh, I'll stage. Depends on where it is. Short answer is bougie areas. Huh?
Seller has to pay that, like on a rental fee, or?
Depends. It all depends. So if it's a whole house staging, I've got one that I'm getting ready to do a whole house staging, and the seller's going to pay for it. Look, you're going to pay for it, and it is. They're fine. They're moving forward. Other situations, it might be if it's a short-term thing, I might pay for it. I might not pay for it. It just depends on the situation. Every situation is different. If it's a bougie house in a bougie area and everybody else is staged, you probably need a stage to go to the emotions. And yeah.
How about the digital staging? Have you tried that?
Oh yeah, all the time.
You do that?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'll do that.
You like that?
Yeah. Vacant houses, I'll do that. I've got one right now that I stage vacantly. Vacant.
Really?
Mm-hmm.
You got a local guy or who does it?
Yeah, my photographer does it. Yeah.
Okay.
Phil. Yeah. Yep. Yeah, the same photographer, he can do virtual tours, video tours, and virtual staging, and drone photography. He does it all. Phil Andrews, give him a little plug. I think it's Virginia Architectural, so if y'all haven't used him, but
yeah,
he does a great job. Yeah.
What does virtual staging cost?
It's per room. it's either $50 or $75 per room or something like that. So, I mean, you obviously don't do the whole house, but getting a few pictures done of the main areas can help tremendously. So. Yep. Well, you were asking about, yeah, depends on the house, depends on the situation. So, yeah.
So this may be a dumb question.
No, ma'am, no such thing, no such thing.
Virtual staging, then you never actually put anything there, but this is what could be there.
Correct, so it's just a picture. Right. Basically, it's taking a picture. I took a picture of this empty space right here, and we wanted to put 4 chairs there, so we go on the computer and play with whatever they play with.
Does your caption on the picture say this is virtually staged? I mean, is that required?
I'm coming to you for the MLS rules, Rodney.
That is the MLS rule. You have to have it as a caption. So people put it on comments, but it needs to be the actual caption of every photo.
Yes. Yes, it does. That's what we do. Thanks, Emily. Yes. So.
AI will do it for you. It's all right.
Yes. Perfect. Awesome.
Good class, Kevin. Way to go, buddy.
Everybody good?
Yeah.
All right. Good job.